Okay, so that's what he says. Yadi chair avasam vrajabhuvi saragam pratijanu. If you desire to live in Vrindavan, life after life, while serving Radha and Krishna, living very close to them, um, then the only means is you have to, with love, um, offer obeisances and remember Swarup Damodar Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatan Goswami and their associates. Swarupam, Shri Rupam, Saganam Iha Tasyagrajamapi Sputam Premna Nityam Smara Nama Tadatvam Shrunumana. So, okay, someone has said slide not changing because I have not changed the slide. That's why. Because I'll have to scroll all the way up to the beginning slide to chant the verse. So I didn't do that. I'm sorry. So, so that's what he says, that Swarupam Shri Rupam Saganam Iha Tasya Grajamapi. So it is possible only through um, uh, clearly, regularly remembering, offering obeisances, expressing gratitude, and studying the literatures left by Swarup Damodar Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatan Goswami, and all their associates. That is the only means of attaining that. That's what he says that. So, in this connection, we were reading from Srila Bhaktivigyan Goswami Maharaj's commentary. So, where Maharaj says, I'll do a quick recap. Maharaj says that this Manasiksha is a methodology by which a person can overcome internal obstacles and gradually develop love for Krishna. Okay, from Shraddha to Prema via the major uh, stages of Anartha Nivritti is all described in Manasiksha. As we saw before, Manasiksha is Srila Raghunath Das Goswami's version of Nectar of Instruction. But it is much more detailed in many aspects which Rupa Goswami just touches actually. So, uh, so Maharaj says, if we follow these recommendations step by step and try to apply them in our lives, success is guaranteed. So, why we are going so slow trying to understand this book? Because this book actually is going to tell us how we can actually reach Krishna Prema in just 12 verses. So, we should not be missing any point and any detail. That is why we are going very slow, reading very slowly and trying to understand every small point, so that when we can apply it and actually make rapid strides in the direction of our goal of the Panchama Purushartha, Krishna Prem, right? So then Maharaj says, actually, at the end of the day, what matters most is how much we have managed to develop attachment to Krishna. Rest, everything is unimportant. That is one of the themes that Maharaj talks about here, right? He says that Raghunath Das Goswami specifically says here that if you have these two desires, to live with love in Vraja, life after life, if you want to live in Vrindavan, life after life with love, and um, um, if you want to directly serve Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, then he says, Sputam Premna Nityam. The writings of Swarup Damodar Goswami, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatan Goswami, and their followers. Like that. So, Sputam Premna Nityam. Clearly, incessantly, and with love. So, we should approach the teachings of Srila Rupa Goswami, Swarup Damodar Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, and others. And here he says that this verse answers several important questions. Okay, or he says that there are several important questions which this verse raises, which we can discuss now, like that he mentioned here. So he says that the first question is, why does Srila Raghunath Das Goswami say Prati Janu, life after life? He says that isn't it that the first thing that we are promised is you practice if you desire to stay here life after life, then you can, because in reality a pure devotee of the Lord actually aspires to establish a relationship with Krishna. He doesn't necessarily specify where. Narayana para sarve na kutaschana bibyati swarga apavarga narakeshu api tulyartha darshana. This is one explanation of Pratijanu, where the devotee is concerned about establishing a relationship with Krishna and he is not concerned about where. Second is, out of humility also, a devotee does not feel himself qualified to go back home, back to Godhead. This is the second understanding. And the third understanding is that if you have a raga, or that spontaneous attraction for Krishna, Vraja Bhuvi Sa Ragam, if you have that spontaneous attraction to Krishna, then even Bhauma Vrindavan is therefore sometimes glorify Vrindavan even more than Vrindavan. So, is concerned about establishing a relationship with Krishna and not necessarily where. And second is, out of humility, he thinks that he is not qualified to go back to Goloka Vrindavan. And third is, even Bhauma Vrindavan is so attractive that he does not want to leave it. And in this context, Maharaj described the episode of Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, how in his last days he was experiencing excruciating pain of cancer. And still, at that time, when he was crying literally out of pain, and His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj was reading, from he was narrating Krishna's pastimes. And as and when he was hearing these Krishna's pastimes, after some time he started smiling, and he said, it can never get better than this, it can never get better than this, I'm very happy. And in fact, he says that I will never exchange this position with anyone else, like that he says. So therefore, he says that Raghunath Das Goswami is drawing this picture because he is ready to take birth and to die, to be sick and to suffer here on earth as long as it is in Vrindavan. And for Bhaktitirtha Maharaj, it was not just in Vrindavan. Again, otherwise, if we are told again and again, birth after birth, we will take birth here, we will say, like, what should I do to go back to Goloka Vrindavan? Like that we will, because we are accessing only the material veil of Bhauma Vrindavan. We are not actually accessing Bhauma Vrindavan. When we see, all that we see is the Bhauma Vrindavan sounds very very attractive, right? So therefore, he says that he tells about the 6 Goswamis who are like, He Radhe Vrajadevike Chalalite He Nanda Suno Kuta. Shri Govardhana Kalpapada Patale Kalindi Vanye Kuta Goshantaviti Sarvato Vrajapure Kedair Mahavihvalau Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalakau. How the six Goswamis were living even the second question is that why is he mentioning Swarupam Shri Rupam? Saganamiha Tasyagrajamapi. Why is he not telling Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Srivas Thakur, Advaita Acharya, and Gadadhar Pandit? I mean, more or less, the rest of the explanation is actually what is he describes about what is the contribution of the six Goswamis. What is the greatness of the contribution of the six Goswamis in the form of their writings? That's what he is indicating here. So he does not mention the Panchatattva because the Panchatattva did break open the storehouse of devotion and they distributed it to whoever were there during that time. Okay. So somewhere, many of them were Nitya Siddhas and some of them to whom it was given immediately, they were Kripa Siddhas. Actually, in one sense, they did not do anything. They did not practice it and that the audio intermittent, what percentage, I mean, is it very often it is intermittent, only once in a while? Can someone share? Okay, is it, no, I understand, but is it continuously unclear? Oh, 50% of the time it's unclear. I'm hearing. That's really unfortunate. Okay, so now, okay, you keep typing to let me know if it is getting better or not. Okay, so I will with whatever is there. I'm trying, but if it becomes very bad, then I will see if I can go somewhere else and do it. Maybe, let's see. So that's what he says, that the contribution of the six Goswamis is really unimaginable, because they wrote and they gave the paddhati through which actually attain Krishna Prema, right? So he says that they also, Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami, they discovered various and places in Vrindavan and they established it, right? So therefore, it was Rupa, heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and established this mission in this material world. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Right? So that's what he is indicating, that there were two purposes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He himself wanted to experience the love that Radharani was experiencing, and then he wanted to distribute Vraja Prem also. So he came, he experienced, but the distribution of the Vraja Prem was happening through the writings of the six Goswamis. And it is only through the writings of the six Goswamis that we get to understand what is it that the Panchatattva were enjoying, right? Like that. So, so, so Rupa Goswami, of all the Goswamis, it is Rupa Goswami who gave a roadmap or guidebook to these feelings. So how do we understand what is it that that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was experiencing, or what is that rasa? So that rasa one can understand only through the writings of Srila Rupa Goswami, especially in the form of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He has explained rasa as a science, actually. So, but the Panchatattva did not do this. They did not write anything. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wrote the Shikshashtakam prayers. Nityanand Prabhu, there is no account of his writing. They did not leave any writings. Neither did Srivas Thakur nor did Gadadhar Pandit. They all came together, and in the association of each other, they experienced the bliss of Krishna Prem. But actually, they did not leave any literature for the actually practice it and achieve the same Krishna Prem. Right? Also, he says that through these writings we can understand what exactly, whether we are undergoing, I am progressing properly, or whether it is just some, whether I am undergoing some sahajiya emotions, or is it genuine emotions, right? All those things one can understand only through the writings of Srila Rupa Goswami, where he explains especially this rasabhas in great detail. Sorry, bhavabhas, ratyabhas. He detail. How do you identify it? How do you identify genuine bhava? Like that. So therefore, Sambandha Gyan is very important. Like that he says. And that Sambandha Gyan is given, and Sambandha, he says that so therefore but we do need to know the spiritual. Sometimes we say that there is nothing very important about, you don't have to really think about Vrindavan and all that you need to is to chant, and that there is no need to understand what Vrindavan is, what the love of Vrajavasis is, like that. But he says that but we also, so that eventually we come to Vraja, and we can develop that attachment to that spiritual science only if Rupa Raghunatha Pade Haibe Akuti Tabe Hama Heri Bose Yugala Piriti. Etc. And study them scrutinizingly, discuss with devotees, churn out the nectar which they are presenting. Only then we can actually purify our hearts and also develop some attraction for Vrindavan. Right? So that's what he's telling. And in this context, he gives some free samples. So similarly, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes, first thing is he descends with his own Nitya Siddha Parshadas. So they already have Krishna Prem, and also there is lot of free doses given, which means Kripa Siddhi. Instantaneously, without practicing any sadhana, people exhibit symptoms of Krishna Prema. like that. But then eventually, and you get to hear about it, read about it in books like Chaitanya Charitamrit, which Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Mangal, etc., where how they enjoyed in Krishna Prem is described. But if you want to know how you can attain that Krishna Prem, what is the step-by-step procedure, then we will have to request the the six Goswamis to reveal it to us through their writings, right? So how do I overcome this anartha? Experiencing rasa is later. So how do I work on my anartha, and how do I properly engage in sadhana and all that? What is that paddhati that he says our acharyas only give? Okay, so and especially, how do you wade through these stages of anartha nivritti? Huh? And then he says, for all that, Bhakti Rasam Sindhu and other books written based on the inspiration of Bhakti Rasam Sindhu, they give us that solution. And Maharaj gives the example of how he met a simple-hearted devotee who had been chanting for just a couple of years, and then he had symptoms of tears and all that. Maharaj peacefully sat with him, heard his description, and the devotee said, but Maharaj, I think this must be just some Rati Abhas. This is not real Bhava. This is just Rati Abhas. That's what everyone says. And Maharaj said, Rati Abhas? So he says that, oh, someone says can't hear at all. Is that what everyone feels? Can't you hear? Okay, others are saying they can hear. So maybe the problem is at their end. Can others hear actually? Yeah. Everyone says they can hear. So probably problem is at their end. Okay, thank you. So he told that no. Maharaj said, but this is not the explanation of Rati Abhas from Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. He says that what you are experiencing is not Rati Abhas, because Rati Abhas is not experienced by who um, uh, those who are practicing pure devotional service. Very clearly, Srila Rupa Goswami says this Ratyabhas is experienced by those who have desire for bhukti or mukti, sometimes in the association of a very exalted Vaishnava, when they experience strong emotions. That is called as Ratyabhas. But what you are experiencing is not Ratyabhas. Maharaj was, he could understand because Rupa Goswami has explained it so clearly. On the other hand, sometimes the experiences of a sahajiya, if we don't have the proper explanation of Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, etc., we may take that to be real bhava also. Sometimes real bhava you can take it to be Rati Abhas, or maybe some sahajiya feeling. And sometimes sahajiya feeling may be taken to be real bhava if the proper sambandha gyan is not there. Right? So that explanation Maharaj is giving through the example of the simple-hearted man who was actually shedding genuine tears out of a genuine mood, but still people were thinking, and he himself was thinking, that it must be Rati Abhas. Right? And he says that but we could understand that it was not Rati Abhas only because Rupa Goswami kindly explained these details in his Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Right? Otherwise, if he had not explained, then we will be experiencing genuine emotions, but thinking that these are not genuine emotions. These are just some Rati Abhas or something like that. So then he also quotes from the book Bhakti Ratnakar, where it is the the experience of even Srila Raghunath Das Goswami is described, where in the last stages of his manifest presence in this material world, he was actually he was feeling the pain of separation from Krishna. He was feeling the pain of separation from Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Swarup Damodar Goswami. So he was literally crying all the time and rolling in the dust, calling for Swarup Damodar Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, like that. And similar mood was expressed by Narottam Das Thakur also in his Lal Samai prayers, right? Uh, Kaha Mora Swarup Rupa, Kaha Sanatan, Kaha Mora Bhatta Juga, Kaha Mora Swarup Rupa, Kaha Sanatan, Kahan Dasa Raghunatha, Patita Pavan, like that, and Eka Kale Kota Gila Gaura Nataraj, Pashane Kutibo Mata, Anale Pashibo, Gauranga Gunera Nidhi, Kota Gele Pabu. Like that, he was feeling that feelings of separation are expressed by Narottam Das Thakur also, like that. So how do we understand what they are going through, how the perfected devotees are going through? Only through the writings of Srila Rupa Goswami. Right? So basically that is the point he is again and again emphasizing here. He says, what to speak of spiritual emotions? Maharaj says even ordinary love is very difficult to understand. Right? So like that he says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared on earth and has made that spiritual love possible and achievable. So how is that love achievable? So Raghunath Das Goswami in his very first verse says, Sada Dambam Hitva. Okay. First we have to clear our mind of that pride or that material upadhis, and then gradually develop attachment to Gurau Goshte Goshtalayishu Sujane Bhusuragane Swamantre Srinamni Vrajanavayuva Dvandva Sharane. So develop attraction to these 8 things, and then gradually come to taking shelter of the writings of the Goswamis. That is the meaning of Swarupam Shri Rupam Saganamiha Tasyagrajamapi. So that will give us the strength to overcome the anarthas. So Vishaya Chadiya Kabe Shuddha Habe Man, Kabe Hama Bhuja Bose, Kabe Hama Heribo Shri Vrindavan. Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoibe Akuti, Tabe Hama Bhuja Bose Yugala Piriti. Like that. Right? So, and how we can do Vishaya Chadiya Kabe Shuddha Habe Man? Only when we take shelter of Rupa Raghunatha Pade Haibe Akuti. Only when we get attracted to the writings of Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, like that. Okay. So then he actually again gives another example of another girl in Russia. She actually saw the Harinam, started crying uncontrollably. She started following the Harinam, clapping her hands and singing, and eventually moved to the temple, and she became a devotee actually. So how do you understand these kind of experiences? Again, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu explains. So he says, whatever is your observation on the path of devotional service, if you are struggling to explain it, if you are not sure whether your understanding is right or wrong, or if you hear someone explaining it in a particular way and you want to know whether it is right or wrong, the only means of understanding it is if you connect yourself to the writings of the acharyas. Right? That's what he is indicating. So basically, he is again and again beating the same point. Why did he say Swarupam Shri Rupam Saganamiha Tasyagrajamapi? That is the point. Why the 6 Goswamis? Because it is only through their writings that we can understand all of this. And then he tells a story about how Rupa Goswami understood the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to dance in front of the Rath Yatra cart, he used to sing this cinema-like song, which is actually a romantic song by one of the famous poets, Sri Amaru. And devotees were wondering, why is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu singing this? And of course, Swarup Damodar Goswami understood this, and Srila Rupa Goswami understood it, and Srila Rupa Goswami wrote an explanation to um, this verse, and he put it on he stuck it to his roof, and he went to take bath. And in the meantime, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to see Chaitanya, to meet Rupa Goswami, and he looked at that palm leaf, he read it, and he was so happy. And Swarup Damodar Goswami was there. He said, how could he understand what was there in my heart? Like that, he was asking Swarup Damodar Goswami. And he said, only because you bestowed him with your mercy, right? And so he says that and he tells that actually Prabhupada shared his own story, that when Prabhupada wrote um, absolute is sentient, thou hast proved, and impersonal calamities thou hast removed. So when adore ye all, when Prabhupada wrote this beautiful poem glorifying Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, and when Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur read it, so he called all his closest companions and he said, I wonder how he told that this person has really understood my heart. And later he says, whatever he writes, actually you should publish it. And then later they gave him the title Kavi, like that. And Prabhupada says, I wonder how I could have understood his intention. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was wondering how Srila Rupa Goswami could have understood my heart, like that. Similarly, here Prabhupada was thinking, I wonder how I could have understood his intention, like that. So then Swarup Damodar Goswami says, he could understand only because he had received your mercy. He could not have understood it in any other way. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu later confirms that, yes, I embraced Rupa Goswami in Jagannath Puri near the Siddhabakul tree, and I invested him with all the Shakti needed to preach Bhakti. That's why he is able to understand. But then he tells Swarup Damodar Goswami, now you Swarup Damodar Goswami, you train him and you explain him the science of Bhakti. Now he says that he has already says that I have invested him with the Shakti to preach Bhakti. Now why is he instructing Swarup Damodar Goswami to instruct Srila Rupa Goswami? He says he wants to show that even if we may have understood everything and our hearts may be overflowing with love of God, still he wanted to show that one should accept a spiritual master and hear from him all the explanations, even if we may have understood everything. Okay, like that. Then he says that Rupa Goswami has explained Bhakti as rasa. In order to understand what spiritual rasa is, we should first understand what is material rasa. So Maharaj says that we should first understand what material rasa is, and we saw that there is lot of similarity between spiritual rasa and material rasa. We saw that these five aspects, the five samagri bhavas, uh, um, vibhava, satvika bhava, anubhavas, sanchari bhavas, and sthai bhava. These five aspects, which are five ingredients or samagris or raw materials of rasa, they are there in material emotions also. So there is lot of similarity in its form, of material emotions, just that material emotions are on the platform of false ego and spiritual emotions are on the platform of true ego. But otherwise, in its form, actually there is lot of similarities between material rasa and spiritual rasa. Okay, so in this context we discussed last time that actually we may think that material and spiritual have nothing in common, but this is not true. Spiritual is not exactly opposite of material. If that was so, then we can never use material analogies to understand any spiritual concepts. But the scriptures and the acharyas constantly keep using material analogies to explain some spiritual truth, right? We saw some examples last time, right? And Vritrasura is trying to explain his own experience of longing for the association of Lord Sankarshan by giving three material examples. He gives the examples of Ajata Paksha Iva Mataram Kaga, helpless small birds who have not yet developed wings, waiting for their mother for protection and you know for pacifying their hunger. And then he gives the example of hungry calf waiting for his mother cow. And then the third, he gives the example of the morose wife waiting for her husband. So we saw that how uh, through these three examples, he expresses three different aspects of his spiritual longing for Lord Sankarshan. Through the example of the helpless birds, he, exhib, he expresses his mood of akinchanyam, abject helplessness. And through the example of the hungry calf, he gives the example of, he explains the aspect of ananya gatitvam, seeking no other shelter and accepting nothing else other than Krishna Prem, that aspect. And using the example of the morose wife waiting for her husband, he expresses the mood of service attitude, which is also another aspect of his love of Krishna. You see, so the spiritual reality uh, is his own love for Sankarshan, and through three different material examples, he described three different aspects of his love towards Sankarshan. So this is only because matter and spirit are not completely opposite. There are certain things common between matter and spirit, but no one matter or no one material can completely describe all the aspects of spirit, but there could be multiple matters which describe different aspects of that spiritual reality, right? So that's what we saw. If you ask a Vaishnava what is the opposite of white color, he will say black color. And if you ask a Mayavadi what is the opposite of white color, he will say no color, colorless. So there are two different ways, right? So material reality and spiritual reality are like white color and black color. There is some similarity. Color is the similarity. But Mayavadis think that the opposite of white color is no color. There should be no color. So, but spirit is not that kind of opposite to matter. That is why material analogies are able to express spiritual reality, at least to some extent. At least some aspect of spiritual reality can be described through material analogies, right? So I think this is where we ended our discussion last week. I will wait for a few seconds to see if there are any quick comments, questions, discussions based on what we have discussed till now. Um, uh, I see one hand up. Navadvip Chandra Prabhu, I am unmuting you. You can please ask Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribol.
Uh, so, Prabhu, I just wanted to ask, like, can someone who is uninitiated or is in the stage of Adho Shraddha can experience Bhava? And also, second question is like how one can experience bhava and then come back again in other Shraddha stage.
So, someone at the stage of Shraddha, can he experience bhava? Not really, but in a very, 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 very covered form, one can experience. But the real symptoms of bhava one cannot experience. It is not possible. And one who has reached that stage of bhava will not come to that stage of real bhava will not come back to enjoy matter. That is not possible actually.
Okay. And one more question I had.
Yeah.
So what is the reason that only Srila Rupa Goswami could understand Lord Chaitanya's heart, like, or only Srila Prabhupada could understand Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's heart?
I mean, not that only they could understand. To say that Srila Rupa Goswami understood, that does not mean others could not understand. Others also understood, but maybe Rupa Goswami understood it to a little greater extent, or he wanted to establish certain things. Of course, Swarup Damodar Goswami understood, Ramananda Rai understood, and only because, and Srila Haridas Thakur understood, right? That is why he tried to assist Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in establishing his mission of spreading the holy name also, right? So all these are Nitya Siddha devotees actually. They are like eternally perfect devotees. So they could understand. And to say that only Prabhupada understood Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, that also we cannot say for sure, right? There were many very exalted disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur. So yes, while glorifying Prabhupada, we do quote this episode. But if you read Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur's life history, which His Holiness Bhakti Vikas Swami Maharaj has compiled, and if you read about the disciples of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, they were quite exalted devotees actually. So yes, we do glorify Prabhupada as having understood the heart of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, but that does not mean others could not understand, because we cannot tell this for sure. It would be presumptuous on our part to do that actually.
Okay, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Something I had in mind regarding the previous answer. Anyways, I forgot it. So
okay. If you remember, you can raise your hands later.
Yeah.
Anything else before we move on further? If there are any further comments, discussions, questions? Yes, Naina Biram Prabhu, I am unmuting you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhu, in the previous slide, you said like we cannot use the analogies to explain the spiritual truths. Is my understanding correct, Prabhu? Or
no, I didn't say that.
Okay.
If
okay.
You heard half of it. I said if spirit was exactly opposite to matter and had nothing in common, then we cannot use material analogies to explain spiritual reality. But in reality, matter and spirit are not that kind of opposites. So therefore, that is why we can use material analogies to explain spiritual reality, because matter has something in common with spirit, and different materials have different things in common with that particular spiritual reality. That is why we can use material analogies to understand spiritual reality. That's what I said. Is that okay, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhu, I am unmuting you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat.
Hari Bol Dandavat, Prabhu. Yes.
Prabhu, in this, somebody asked a question about Bhava being experienced at the Shraddha stage, Shraddhavan stage. I understood that Bhava was something which is something innate with the soul. It is not something extraneous which comes from outside.
Correct.
And just as the spiritual consciousness of the soul is completely covered,
Mhm.
the bhava also is covered, and as the person progresses in bhakti and slowly when all the anarthas are removed, it
Mhm.
it starts manifesting. That's
Correct.
my
Correct.
understanding, right? Kapil?
Yeah, yeah, correct, bro. Correct, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Navdeep Chandrapo, I am muting you.
Yes, Prabhu. So just that I wanted to know, like, is there a term for that also, for that glimpse of Baba that one experiences at the stage of, like the Rati Abbas is a term, right? For someone
No,
who
no.
is not.
Ratyabhas is used especially to indicate those people who are like either absolute materialists or those who are after liberation, when they sometimes come in the association of very
Yeah,
exalted devotees, the the real prema within the heart of the exalted devotees sometimes gets reflected
reflect.
temporarily in the heart of this materialistic person, and actually he exhibits some very vague, some very faint symptoms of bhava like crying and hair standing on end, and that too only for a very limited time. That is called as Pratyabhas, which is very clearly in detail explained
Yes,
in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It is generally not used in conjunction with proper practicing sadhakas.
yes. So I just wanted to ask, like, is there a term for this also, like the one who is experiencing at the Shraddha stage the glimpse of Baba? Is there some term also for that?
Is there some term for that? So that is not called Ratyabhas, but I'm not very sure if there is a particular term for that. Uh, but certainly, uh, mm, it is actually, yeah, I'm not sure if there is a term for that.
Okay,
Yeah, but certainly it's not Ratyabhas. Okay.
okay.
Yeah. So anything else? I see one question here written in the chat box. So I will read that question and see if we can discuss on this. Material mind can't understand spiritual rasa on its own, but by Krishna's mercy, Shastric statements, though appearing to be material words, can explain spiritual rasa, as given in Shrimad Bhagavatam 10th canto Vedastuti. Similarly, Acharyas, by mercy of Krishna, can explain spiritual rasa through material words, but that can't be done by a person who himself has not experienced rasa. Yeah, correct. So, but because um, so for explaining that, they definitely one must have experienced spiritual rasa. Uh, Otherwise, it is not possible to write a book like Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's impossible. So only they can write these books. But a sadhaka can read and get a glimpse of that. That is possible. Hmm. Otherwise, why would he write it? So a sadhaka can definitely read that and get a glimpse of that glimpse of what is getting described. Even though the exact realization we may get only when we ourselves reach the stage of bhava or prema, but a glimpse of what a bhava bhakta or a prema bhakta may be going through, we can understand. Okay, so the question was in relation to using material analogies to explain spiritual reality, which means material analogies to explain rasa can be used by acharyas. Others can just try understanding according to how much revelation is possible by Krishna's mercy. Yeah, you can say to some extent, yes. Yeah. Okay, so if there are no further comments, questions, discussions, we will move ahead. Okay, so, and Maharaj writes, let us first examine bhava and rasa not in the spiritual sense, but in terms of our philosophy, but in the worldly sense, so we all can relate to it, right? Because as we discussed before, these elements of anubhavas, sattvika bhavas, sanchari bhavas, these are there in material emotions also, huh? Right? That's why Rupa Goswami compiled this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and he took the template from Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra only. So, which is actually describing material emotions only, right? But he took the template and then he used it to explain spiritual rasa. That is why even Srila Rupa Goswami, when describing um, uh, ragatmika bhakti, or um, the emotions, or the kind of bhakti which is practiced by the Vrajavasis, he calls it Kama Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti or Sambandha Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti. So Kama Rupa means what? The kind of bhakti which is followed by the gopis in form and in experience, it looks very, very similar to the conjugal attraction between male and female found in the material world. That is why he uses the word kama. Kama rupa. The form is kama, but raga atmika. The atma, the real essence is raga. Raga means Krishna Saukyartam eva kevala mudyama. Every endeavor is performed purely for the pleasure of Krishna. So therefore, it is called as bhakti. Kama Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti, Sambandha Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti. So in Rupa or in form, it has similarity with material emotions. But in the material world, it is Kama Rupa Kamatmika Bhukti. The form is Kama, the content is Kama, and it is not Bhakti, but it is Bhukti, sense enjoyment. Right? But in the spiritual world, when what the gopis are experiencing, that is Kama Rupa only. Rupa is Kama, but the essence is Raga. A desire, a deep thirst to please the object of affection, which is Krishna, and not to enjoy oneself. Therefore, it is called as Bhakti. Right? So, therefore, if you want to understand the form of this rasa, then it is, to some extent, it is possible to understand it through our experience of material emotions also. That is why Srila Rupa Goswami took the template of this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, especially the description of the rasa part of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He took the template from Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra, right? And here also, His Holiness Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj is telling, so in order to understand spiritual rasa, let us try to understand material rasa, right? Because there are similarities. Otherwise, there is no point doing that. So this brings us to the same point, that actually there are similarities between matter and spirit, right? That is why he is trying to explain material rasa first. Bhava, Maharaj says, bhava is the emotion that a person experiences, such as an actor, a poet, or a writer. That's what inspires them to write. The actor who is expressing an emotion on the stage, or a writer who is expressing it in the words of his poems, is expressing bhava, or he is expressing his emotions. This bhava can be expressed even in a gesture, right? That's what the dancers do, right? Through abhinayas, mudras, and all these things, facial expressions. So this is what they try to do. Worldly rasa is the result of transformation of worldly bhava. Bhava is what is expressed. A writer A poet or an actor reflects or represents their emotions. Someone has experienced some feeling, and I, as the reader of or observer, feel the same but as a reflection. Like you experience it while watching a movie, or you would have experienced it before while watching a movie, or in today's day and age, you might watch a Krishna conscious drama being enacted by someone, and by watching the drama, we may feel the experience of the stage actor, but as a reflection. This reflected feeling that has no relation to myself. hmm, uh, okay, because it is experienced by the other person. I have not been in that situation, yet I still feel this emotion, right? Many times we may have personally, like in our previous lives, we may have personally not experienced the, certain emotions. Let's say, uh, mm, love between the hero and the heroine, but still, when you can feel their separation when that feelings are expressed by the hero or the heroine, when they are crying, when they are feeling that, when they are yearning, our heart also yearns with them, even though we have never in real life, we have probably never had such a relationship, right? I have not been in that situation, yet I still feel this emotion, the aesthetic sense of perception of another's emotion, that is called as rasa, he says. For us to understand these two terms, bhava and rasa, so that we are able to comprehend in what way spiritual bhava and spiritual rasa correlate with each other, right? So, um, coarse state, in a more, for example, he says, those who listened to the Beatles were going crazy because of what was going on in their hearts, right? I mean, it may not be Beatles, because I don't know how many of you grew up hearing Beatles. I didn't, for sure. But of course, in our house, uh, my mother was an ardent Carnatic music, or South Indian classical music fan. So at least while I was at home, I grew up to a large extent hearing that, and to a large extent developed some inclination and taste for that also. So the Beatles themselves were not going crazy. They just express some feelings in their songs, and hearing those feelings, other people were going crazy actually. The hair of those who heard them was standing on end, tears were streaming from their eyes, and they were rolling on the floor. This is actually sattvika bhavas in reality, but with respect to material emotions. Sattvika vikaras, huh? Ashru, pulaka, hmm? Right, that. And rolling on the floor, they are anubhavas. These anubhavas. The fans were dying to go and tear their idols to shreds for souvenirs, because they were able to awaken in their hearts feelings that no one else could awaken. No one else could awaken that kind of feeling in their hearts as the Beatles could do through their writings and singing. This is how worldly rasa functions and how powerful it is. In Vedic culture, beginning with Bharat Muni, look, Maharaj is quoting Bharat Muni, this theory of rasas was developed. Vedic philosophers possessed an amazing, unique ability to classify every possible condition. Vedic literature and culture describe how feelings arise even on the mundane level, what they consist of, right? We saw the Samagri Bhavas, right? The 5 Samagri Bhavas. So the uh, what constitute these feelings? What triggers these feelings? And how these feelings manifest in body, hmm, like that. What the stimulus of emotion is. This is the stimulus is called as vibhava. and how all this takes place so that this emotion can be reproduced. This science of rasa is Rupa Goswami's contribution. So again, why he is talking all this? Because Raghunath Das Goswami says, Swarupam Shri Rupam Saganamiha Tasyagrajamapi. We should appreciate what the Acharyas have given us, so that every day with love and with great respect we are and gratitude, we are willing to offer our obeisances and accept these teachings, read these teachings, discuss these teachings, and get nourished. He has described, demonstrated, and explained that bhakti should turn into the sublime spiritual emotion of love for Krishna, not just into service for Krishna. We don't just want to service Krishna, to serve Krishna, but we want to actually love Krishna. That's what he's indicating. At the first level, we serve Krishna using our senses, right? So this is called as Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam. So this is called as Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam. Okay. So Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam means where there is Cheshta alone, there is endeavor using our mind, body, and words, but there are no spiritual emotions. So this is at the stage of sadhana bhakti. So we serve Krishna using our senses. We are trying to serve the Lord. We are trying to serve the Lord of the senses using our own senses in order for them to be purified. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam. But at a higher level, we serve not with our senses, but with our emotions. This is called as Bhava Rupa Anushilanam. So this is performed at the stage of Bhava and Prema, where we have awakened those spiritual emotions. And this is followed at the stage of Sadhana Bhakti. In fact, what is embodied in Srimad Bhagavatam is the picture of the spiritual world which cannot be found anywhere else. If someone tries to draw some image, it will be a picture of perceptions or states. This is a very important point. Okay, when we have to draw something, we will draw only something which we have perceived. It can't be absolutely something which we have not experienced at all, right? Suppose we were shown advertisements of the spiritual world, it would still be a position of our own material experience. We will superimpose it into what we perceive. Yes, it is a beautiful sight that you can keep looking at for 40 years, but there is something lacking. Because Atmavan Manyate Jagat, right? We try to perceive everything based on our own experience. We can't imagine something which we have not experienced, right? So, it is yes, it is a beautiful sight that you can keep looking at for 40 years, but there is something lacking, because we cannot exactly imagine that spiritual world because we have not experienced it. It is a static image where a person is described as a kind of a motionless being who is staring at that sight and enjoying it, but the inner experience is missing, right? If you look at a picture, the inner experience is missing. Srimad Bhagavatam's description of the spiritual world is not like that. It is very unique and not found in any other scripture. Srimad Bhagavatam describes a dynamic account of a constantly expanding love experienced by the Bhakta and Bhagavan and the reciprocation of that love. So Srimad Bhagavatam describes a not static love but dynamic love. It expresses it in words. This love swelling in the heart of the Bhakta is reflected in the heart of the God, in the heart of God. And because of the happiness that he feels from his Bhakta's love, it starts to be reflected in the heart of the devotee and becomes even greater. Right? And in this way, it keeps on increasing in each other's heart. Like that. So it's like an auto-catalytic reaction that takes place between them. So it is like the love in the heart of one, the devotee catalyzes the love in the heart of Krishna to increase, and then the love in the increasing love in the heart of Krishna acts as a catalyst to increase the love in the heart of the devotee. This is the spiritual picture that Srimad Bhagavatam describes, and there is no question of time whatsoever, because when it is experienced, time is unnoticed. Yugayitam nimeshena chakshusha pravrushayitam shunyayitam jagat sarvam. This is the opposite case when devotees experience separation from Krishna. A moment becomes like a yuga. But when they are experiencing spiritual reality, actually time is unnoticed. When someone says he can look at the same picture for 40 years, it means that he is aware that time is passing by. One that distinguishes rasa from worldly rasa is that there is no question of time. Right? So there is no question of time. This is the difference between material rasa and spiritual rasa. And Maharaj is writing all this because Maharaj actually is overwhelmed by the contribution of Srila Rupa Goswami. And because in this verse, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami is appreciating, if you want to progress, if you want to stay in Vrindavan life after life, you should accept with great reverence, respect and gratitude and love the teachings of the Goswamis. And basically he is describing the contribution of Srila Rupa Goswami in specific as a representation of this principle that Srila Rupa Goswami is mentioning here. What is it that Rupa Goswami has given through his writings, especially the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu? Like that. For that purpose, he is describing mundane rasa and contrasting it with spiritual rasa, like that. You can love eternally because you are never bored with love. It is ever fresh and always burning in your heart. It is always reflected in a new way and always brings new surprises. Those who enter into the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan and due to their sadhana gain access to these pastimes, they see new pastimes that no one else has described. Okay, so that's what he says. Those who enter into the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan and due to their sadhana gain access to these pastimes, they see new pastimes that no one else has described. This is a very important point that is making here, because we do see acharyas, and he quotes the example of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Actually, he describes some pastimes in his books which are not found anywhere. In Bhagavatam also it is not there, in any other Purana it is not there. And sometimes, what to speak of that, sometimes in the pastime which is described in the Puranas also, the Acharyas give insights which are not directly mentioned by Shukadeva Goswami or Sutta Goswami in Bhagavatam. Because these Acharyas are not ordinary people. They have access to these pastimes. This is called as Leela Spurti, which is bestowed upon them because of their qualification by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not only do they have access to these pastimes, but they have access to the hearts of the participants also. They can exactly tell what this devotee, what this character of Bhagavatam is thinking. What was he thinking when he spoke this? Why didn't he speak? Huh? Or why did he act in this particular way? Actually, they are not speculating. Krishna gives them access to this. And this is why actually Vishwanath Chakravarti and other acharyas, they can write something which is not explicitly mentioned in Bhagavatam at all. And sometimes it is mentioned that in various books, our acharyas like Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti, they write some pastimes which are absolutely new pastimes actually, which are not there in Bhagavatam or any other Purana. There have been and there still are those who, by entering these pastimes, they can see them. Actually, this is a very important point. He says, there have been and there still are, Maharaj says, there still are those who by entering these pastimes can see them. And it could be your own spiritual master also, but he will not reveal it to any common devotee, but they may not reveal it to any common devotee. Or it could be some very exalted devotee living even amidst all of us, right? So there still are people, but they will not reveal it to any common person because they may take it very cheaply, right? Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami were in these pastimes or in this rasa. So they were not ordinary people. So basically, Maharaj is explaining why Swarupam Shrirupam. They were not even Panchatattva. They were just some followers of Chaitanya. They were not just some followers of Chaitanya. They were some of the most exalted followers of Chaitanya. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had empowered them completely to preach bhakti. There is another aspect of rasa that we should now understand. The characteristic of worldly rasa is that rasa or the aesthetic bliss is pleasing even when the emotion someone feels is so called negative, right? And this is true to some extent even in material rasa. Maharaj is going to explain it, right? So it is pleasing even when the emotion someone feels is so called negative. Okay, so it is an amazing law of rasa. So Maharaj gives the example of in tragedies like Hamlet, for example, the Western scholars tried to give some explanation to the emotions felt. They introduced the concept of catharsis when a person going through a tragedy feels purification of the heart. So in the English language, it is called as a cathartic feeling or catharsis, where a negative emotion is experienced, but even in experiencing a negative emotion, there is a feeling of purification of heart. So Maharaj says that, oh, this concept is there even the Western philosophers, they try to explain this, the Western scholars, like that Maharaj explains. In fact, this understanding of catharsis is is the dawn of the understanding of rasa or the aesthetic sense. So like that. So, so the characteristic of rasa is that even if the emotion is negative, it still makes us blissful. Like that sometimes, uh, uh, you see in YouTube also, sometimes there is an there are advertisements of sad songs, sad movie songs, you know. I mean, it's one of the popular things, and many millions and millions of people hear actually. There are millions of views, right? Sometimes you observe uh, sad Hindi songs. uh, so why sad Hindi songs? Uh, because even hearing that, there is sometimes it makes us some kind of bliss. I feel that's why if you see in the Western this thing, it is called as the blues, you know, where it's more or less a sad tune or a and a sad it's a sad melody, and a very sad feeling is also expressed, and people listen to it hour after hour after hour, many times, again and again. The blues music was very famous. If you read in the Solinas Radhanath Swami Maharaj's um, journey home, he was a big fan of blues music like that. So I feel grief together with the characters of the play or the singer who sings about how his girlfriend left him, but that grief makes me feel bliss. Not in a very you can say like uh, mm, not in a sense of sadistic way. It's not that you are happy that someone is suffering, but it's a kind of uh, bliss, you know, like that. Now the difference between material rasa and spiritual bhakti as rasa is that with the spiritual we are not talking about a spectacle. So in material rasa, we are just watching someone experience, and we have a second hand experience of what they are going through. Someone is singing about his lost girlfriend, and you are straight of we are trying to get some second hand kind of emotion, second hand emotion out of what someone else is going through. But in spiritual rasa, it is not like that, he says. We are not the spectators of the relationship between Krishna and his devotee. When we actually become qualified for this rasa, we are no longer spectators of that relationship. We enter these relationships and we feel these emotions, and these emotions are called rasa because the objects of my emotions is rasa itself. So these are not um, right. We enter these relationships and we feel these emotions, and these emotions are called rasa because the object of my emotions is rasa itself. So that is the difference between material rasa and spiritual rasa. In material rasa, mm, we are spectators. When we hear sad songs, when we watch a sad movie, we are spectators and we have some second hand experience. But in spiritual rasa, when we become qualified, we are not spectators, but we are participants, right? Taittiriya Upanishad says, Raso Vaisaha, that the Lord is Rasa, or he is Rasa incarnate. Krishna is Rasa, and Rasa is impossible to be translated in any way or by any words. It is not just a taste or emotion or anything else. Rasa is Rasa. In NOD preface also, Prabhupada writes that there is no proper English word to translate it, this word Rasa. But because our spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, used the word mellow to describe Rasa, so we shall also use the same word to describe rasa, like that Prabhupada writes in the preface of Nectar of Devotion. Okay, so before we read little bit further about rasa, I will just pause because I don't want to keep speaking all the time or keep reading all the time. So I'll just pause to see if there are any quick comments, questions, discussions before we can move forward. Because if I read too much, then actually after some time We may even forget what was discussed, because this is exalted subject matter. With every line we cannot have a discussion, because this is little exalted subject matter, like that. Madhavi Gopi Mataji, I am unmuting you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat Prabhuji. Prabhuji, whatever you discussed some time back in this slot only, that in the spiritual rasa, there is no actual actions performed. Like you particular terminology you use now, I don't remember the terminology. While at the sadhana stage, whatever devotion is done, it is expressed through particular action.
Oh, I said Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam and Bhava Rupa Anushilanam.
Yeah, Bhava Rupa. So I just was trying to understand that at the Bhava stage, when somebody does any, means when someone experiences particular rasa, that time without any action, the Bhava is conveyed, or because ultimately it is, means, as far as my little knowledge, I don't have actually any knowledge in this subject matter, but generally we see or it is heard from the acharyas also that our love gets expressed through the actions. Or for the devotion also at the sadhana stage, it is said that only if somebody is doing some mental sadhana or something, then it is just a lip service. Whatever we do, it has to get transformed into action for what service we are doing for Krishna.
Yeah.
So
See, actually, I did not. So I did mention Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam and Bhava Rupa Anushilanam. So in Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam, in Cheshta Rupa, you have only Cheshta and no Bhava. Right? In Bhava Rupa Anushilanam, there is Cheshta plus Bhava. So when Mother Yashoda, we are singing the glories of Krishna, we are singing, chanting the holy name. Mother Yashoda is also chanting. She's using words, right? And
yes.
she's also simultaneously churning butter for Krishna, so which is body. And while churning butter, she's singing about Krishna, about his qualities, pastimes, etc., for which she has to meditate on the qualities and pastimes of Krishna. So she's using her mind. So there is engagement, there is cheshta, using the mind, body, and words in Bhavarupa Anushilanam, but along with spiritual emotions. So it's not that Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam has only Cheshta and Bhavarupa Anushilanam has only Bhava. Yes, but Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam has only Cheshta, no Bhava. But Bhavarupa Anushilanam has Cheshta and Bhava both.
Okay, so at the stage of Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam, like जैसे वो एक बहुत common example दिया जाता है कि in previous times, some 50 years back, 60 years back, जल्दी चाइल्ड मैरिज कर देते थे, तो साथ में रह रहे के by serving each other love develop हो जाएगा. So like that Cheshta Rupa Anushilanam, if we keep doing our sadhana under the guidance of Guru, finally at some stage we will develop true love for Krishna.
Yeah, gradually with the purification of heart, gradually we will develop the bhava also.
Yeah, and there was one more question. Actually, since long time I have this question that we just mentioned that certain pastimes acharyas explain because they actually enter and those are not mentioned anywhere in the book. So at many times in the Bhagavatam, we get to hear about the explanation or description of Vaikuntha. So I always wonder that anywhere in Bhagavatam or in any book, there is also a description of Goloka given in it.
Yeah. It is there in books. There are books written by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and some written by Baldev Vidyabhushan also. Some I'm sure Jiva Goswami must have written, but there is a book called Vrajariti Chintamani which Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has written, which describes about Vrindavan. So there are books which describe about and Bhagavatam also to a large extent here and there, even though it does not dedicate one section just to describe Goloka Vrindavan, through many pastimes, many aspects of Vrindavan are described in the pastimes of Bhagavatam also.
Okay. And the pastimes also, like generally, I have heard wherever that whatever pastimes of the Lord we hear are those pastimes which he performs in the material world.
Not
But
necessarily. No, not necessarily.
okay,
Some pastimes are Bhauma Leela pastimes. So there is Nitya Leela and there is Naimittika Leela. So the demon killing pastimes, his birth pastimes, these are all Naimittika Leela, which happen in Bhauma Vrindavan. And there are some pastimes like Krishna's Rasa Leela and others. These are like Nitya Leela which happen in Goloka Vrindavan. So, so it's not that only the pastimes which happen in Bhauma Vrindavan are described in Bhagavatam. There are Nitya Leela also which happen in Goloka Vrindavan. They might have as well happened in Bhauma Vrindavan also. But there are some of the pastimes which happen in Goloka Vrindavan also. So that is also described in Srimad Bhagavatam.
okay. Thank you.
Yashoda Gopika Mataji, I am unmuting you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, I'm just confused between serving Krishna and loving Krishna, because we often serve him through acharyas, and then that itself has that loving thing in it. And then we also have the quotes like Savai Mamso Parodharma, in which we says that serving Krishna itself means loving Krishna. So, I mean, I just get confused between these two terms.
Actually, there is, yeah, the way in which it's written here is slightly confusing. We do have love for Krishna. We are not denying that. But when Maharaj uses the word love, he is indicating emotions, spiritual emotions. We have spiritual desires, we have some love, but um, it has not matured into spiritual emotions, which happens only at the stage of bhava and prema. So that's what Maharaj is indicating here as love. See, he says we don't have love, but what he actually means is we have not yet developed spiritual emotions. That's what Maharaj is indicating here. So which is why when we chant the holy name, tears don't flow from our eyes, hairs don't stand on end. So these symptoms of spiritual emotions uh, have not manifest. So that's what I understand. Is that okay, Mataji? Can you unmute and speak?
Yes, sure, Prabhuji. And then this bhava and everything, this is same as the Sai Bhav, no? This is not attainable in this life, na? I
No.
mean, that is the maximum thing which anyone can achieve. Is that the case?
Yeah, but
Because after Ruchi, Asakti, Bhava, and then Prem is not from this world. So the maximum extent is Bhavna.
no. One can achieve till prema here, and then after achieving prema, then one goes back like that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, anything else before we move ahead? Okay. So, uh, anyway, so we were discussing about rasa being, it is impossible to exactly translate rasa, but Prabhupada says that, because my spiritual master used the word mellow, so I will also use the same word mellow to express rasa like that. Anyway, so rasa is a special state that we must clearly understand. Krishna is a fountain of rasa. He is Akila Rasamrita Murti. This is how uh, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu describes Krishna. This actually Krishna in Vrindavan is called as Akila Rasamrita Murti. He is the infinite source of all kinds of rasa and all kinds of relationships. He is constantly inviting us to love, and Krishna becomes uh, the object of our love. The love that we feel at some point turns into rasa, right? That's what Maharaj writes. So this, to some extent, like answers Yashoda Gopika Mataji's question. He says we do have love, but we don't have rasa, the spiritual emotions. That the love that we feel at some point it turns into rasa. At what point? At the stage of prema. In its early stages, it is called as bhava. Early stages means at the stage of bhava, it is called as bhava or simply a feeling. But when the relationship becomes real, when Krishna becomes the real object of our love, it transforms into rasa, like that. Spiritual rasa is always beautiful and always blissful for one simple reason. Why? Even in worldly relationships, when we experience love in the material world, that love is always fraught with either fear or other negative emotions because the object of our love is material and the relationship can hurt. Right? This is a problem with material relationship. Right? And Srila Prabhupada, in the preface to Nectar of Devotion, he describes two aspects of material rasa. He says, Bhogatyaga and Chapala Sukha. So Bhogatyaga means enjoyment and renunciation. We enjoy it and we want to give it up. We enjoy it, we want to give it up, like that. Why? Because it has very insignificant scope for enjoyment. It has very little rasa in it. Therefore, we enjoy it for some time, then we get bored, we give it up, like that. But in the material world, love is always defiled, especially conjugal love. It is not so glorified, it is defiled, right? Srila Prabhupada said that the purest manifestation of love in the material world is a mother's love for her child. But in the material world, love is not always blissful because the child is not always blissful, right? When the child is suffering, the mother suffers even more than her child. Therefore, material love always contains this duality between love and suffering. But when we love Krishna, he feels happiness. Krishna is always happy, even when he is crying and saying, "Why have you abandoned me?" Right? But we can't understand this because this is something which we have not experienced in the material world. He is happy all the same. Therefore, when we love him, our love is always blissful. Because he is always blissful, if we love Krishna, then we also become always blissful. Krishna is always rasa. Krishna himself is rasa. Raso Vaisaha. Just like the nature of rasa, the nature of the aesthetic sense is always bliss. Krishna is Raso Vaisaha. He is the pure sense of eternal bliss. And when we fall in love with him, our feeling is always blissful. So he is establishing why is it important to understand spiritual rasa and why is it important to aspire after spiritual rasa. Because only when we develop that rasa in conjunction with Krishna, actually we can experience, we can always be blissful. Only love for Krishna can make a person truly happy, and this love is attainable thanks to Rupa Goswami, because he gives us the Paddhati, how we can attain that love. We must understand literally that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us prema. For example, if a piece of wood fell into the Ganges, it would end up sooner or later in the ocean, even if for some time it became stranded on the bank, thinking how nice it was when I was floating in the Ganges, but for the time being, I will take some rest on the bank. He says, um, mm, even for some moment, if the piece of wood may be in the bank, but sooner or later it will go to the ocean. Some people think I have had enough of devotional service. That's it for the lifetime. People may think like that, like the log of wood which is taking rest on the bank. So you may think, okay, enough, I have practiced enough. But Lord Chaitanya has already given prema to all of us, like it or not, and sooner or later the Ganges will burst the banks and the piece of wood will be carried to the ocean. So we may like it or we may not like it. He says that sooner or later we will. So even if we may give up, of course, we should not give up, but practicing devotional service. But even if we may give up, except if we give up because of committing offenses, if due to some other material attraction or lack of association, if we may give it up, then eventually Krishna will attract. Smaran mukundangri upaguhanam punar vihatu micchenna rasagraho jana. He will make us remember he will make us remember the wonderful days that we spent in Krishna consciousness, and gradually by giving us such wonderful memories, Krishna will pull us back. Because Krishna has invested in us, he will not let that investment go waste. Because as soon as we received Shraddha, from that point on, Krishna has taken personal responsibility of us. Okay, he has dismissed the law of karma and he has taken personal responsibility of the devotee. So if the devotee after some time, due to unfavorable association or lack of association or being overwhelmed by sense gratificatory desires, if he gives up bhakti, Krishna takes personal responsibility to time and again giving some remembrance of the wonderful days that he spent in bhakti, so that he can get inspired to start practicing again. Right? So the piece of wood may shout again, enough, enough, I want to get to the shore again and dry out a little bit. The piece of wood may shout like that. And the Ganga will say, if you want to lie down a bit, you can. So which means Krishna will say, okay, you don't want to practice for a while, you take rest, no problem. But then it will rise again and sooner or later carry that wood to the ocean. Which means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will carry us to Krishna Prem, to Goloka Vrindavan for sure. Even if in between, due to getting distracted, we may give up Krishna consciousness also. Okay, that's what Bhagavatam also says. From the very beginning, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we were given that prema. Okay, the moment we came into the, so we already have it. The check is there. We have to encash it now. Sooner or later, we will get it in full if we do what Rupa Goswami has explained to us. Okay, so how we can now deposit the check and so that the money can be deposited in our account? Okay, so we should do what Rupa Goswami has explained to us. Okay, if we do what Rupa Goswami has explained to us, it is possible. If we follow this path, we will eventually reach the ocean of this rasa. So how to do that? For that we will have to ask Swarupam Shri Rupam Saganamiha Tasyagrachamapi. Krishna will then appear right before us, and at that moment, our emotion, our bhava will develop into rasa and will become prema, because rasa is a synonym of prema. The combination of these rasas turns into this feeling and emotion, like that. It was Rupa Goswami who explained to us how to cultivate emotions. Sadhana bhakti means that we imitate those who have love, right? That's what Rupa Goswami writes in Bhakti Rasam Sindhu. Kriti sadhya bhaved sadhya bhava sa sadhana bida. So in Bhakti Rasam Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami says, what is this sadhana bhakti? It means you engage your senses in the activities of Krishna consciousness so that you achieve the state of sadhya bhava or bhava bhakti. Okay, so which means basically they are also chanting, you also try to chant. They are also hearing, you also try to hear. So we just try to imitate those who have love. They do everything that we do, and we do everything that they do, right? But we do everything that they do in order to become like them. That's what he says. Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sa sadhana vida. Right? So that ultimately love awakens in our heart. That is our goal. Rupa Goswami has given us this road map to the realm of spiritual emotions, and which will turn into pure spiritual rasa, into pure spiritual love. Right? Like that. Rupa Goswami made use of the worldly rasa theory, the theory of aesthetic bliss or aesthetic pleasure that a person experiences contemplating some display of emotions. He made use of this structure to explain the mystical experience of bhakti. That's what we saw, right? He made use of, um, um, the Bharat Muni's Natya Shastra, where material rasa was described. He made use of that to explain spiritual rasa. He did not give a new definition of bhakti. Bhakti is bhakti, and bhakti always has the nature of rasa. Krishna is Krishna, and Krishna is always rasa. The Taittiriya Upanishad therefore has said, Raso Vaisaha. Krishna is pure rasa, pure bliss. Rupa Goswami made use of this structure to explain to us in what way we can approach the pure original rasa. Right? The Adi rasa, that is Krishna, as quickly as possible. How can we achieve it? Rupa Goswami only has taught us. Rupa Goswami developed this structure so that we could attain this experience in the right way. There are people who inspired by Lord Chaitanya's example of extraordinary ecstatic love for Krishna, try to imitate him. So now he is telling what happens if we do not try to follow Swarupam Shri Rupam Saganamiha Tasyagrajamapi. What if we don't take shelter of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatan Goswami and Swarup Damodar Goswami's teachings? What will happen? That's what he is going to explain it now. Some people try to imitate Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Of course, that is one way to try to experience it, by throwing yourself into some kind of artificial emotional state. Just go and start rolling on the floor or rub your eyes with an onion. Okay, so that you can get some tears. But this would be damba, right? This would be damba, a manifestation of deception or pride, as discussed earlier in reference to the first verse of Manasiksha. Sada dambam hitva kururatim apurvam atitaram. He says, we need a genuine experience, and Rupa Goswami has given us the structure through which we can attain true experience. Okay, how can we get true experience? Rupa Goswami has given, right? the structure. Soon after Lord Chaitanya's departure, the tantrics who dressed in Vaishnava attire, the Sahajiya sects, were trying to transfer their tantric experience into the sphere of love of God. So this happened, he says, soon after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left, right? We have seen how easy it is to stumble in this very delicate, subtle sphere of spiritual experience and misinterpret our emotions. This is very easy to do that, right? So, an example of this is the direct associates of Lord Chaitanya. So, they were actually direct associates of Lord Chaitanya. In Orissa, when Lord Chaitanya resided in Puri, there were several devotees who were close to him. They are still the object of worship in Odisha. The so-called Panchasakis are his 5 closest friends. So they were there when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates in Orissa, it is mentioned. If you go to Odisha, the cult of these Panchashakis is very prominent in Jagannath Puri. From our point of view, these 5 people were Sahajiyas of the lower sort. We do not hold them in high regard, although these people saw Lord Chaitanya and touched him. So this is amazing. They saw Lord Chaitanya, touched him, and still became Sahajiyas, actually. Right? So, but how do we know that they were Sahajiyas? Only because we we have access to Srila Rupa Goswami's writings. Right? They saw the tears streaming from his eyes, but they did not understand. They deviated, and their experience turned into a cheap imitation that we as Orthodox Vaishnavas see as pitiful imitation. Okay. So they saw the external act of crying and they tried to imitate that, but they did not really understand. The difference between them and us consists of only one thing. What is the difference between Sahajiyas and ourselves? Maharaj says that we follow in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami described the yoga of emotions as a science. So if we don't read this, if we don't take shelter of their writings, then there is a chance that we may also become Sahajiyas. What is very important for us to understand is that although we strive for the manifestation of absolute, spontaneous, unrestrained love, in order to attain it, we must submit to strict discipline, right? That is what that is what Rupa Goswami teaches, that the means of attaining Vraja Prem is to follow Raganuga Bhakti. Okay. And in order to practice Raganuga Bhakti, first you must have practiced Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Right? So this is very clearly explained in Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. But the Sahajiyas, because they don't read it, they directly start imitating this Vraja Prem or maybe Raganuga Bhakti. We follow the path of yoga based on discipline and on a most profound rational philosophy, the philosophy describing the mystic experience in categories of reason. Right? That's how Rupa Goswami has explained. How is it? Through proper reasoning and explanation, he has explained the concept of rasa. How this rasa manifests and what triggers this rasa, how do you explain this rasa, all of that he explains. Rupa Goswami has come to prevent us from making this mistake. So it is imperative that we follow in his footsteps. When Raghunath Das Goswami says, Swarupam Shri Rupam Saganamiha Tasya Grajamapi. Saganam means all associates are followers of Swarupa and Shri Rupa. Right? we must remember not only Rupa Goswami, but also any follower of Lord Chaitanya who strictly follows in his footsteps. Huh? So this is contemporary acharyas also. Sa ganamiha tasyagrajamapi is about all the devotees, huh, who are in one way or other connected with Lord Chaitanya, starting with Swarup Damodar, Sri Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, and their closest associates. Raghunath Das Goswami emphasizes that remembering them is the condition for attaining love, right? Sputam premna nityam smara nama tadatvam shrunumana. Clearly, with love, and daily remember them and offer obeisances to them, express your gratitude to them. This is a condition for attaining love, and there is no other way to obtain love except through them and by remembering them. Right? In the history of our Sampradaya, there was an important event held in Keturi, which was the first Gaur Purnima celebration personally organized by Janava Mata, Lord Nityananda Prabhu's wife. Narottam Das, Shyamananda Prabhu, and Srinivas Acharya, who had come from Vrindavan to Bengal with the books written by the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, they also attended it. The purpose of this festival was above all to establish the doctrine developed by Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami in Vrindavan and bring it to Bengal. So basically, he is explaining this Keturi because the purpose of the whole Keturi festival was to establish the doctrine developed by Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami in Vrindavan and bring it to Bengal, which at that time was flooded by a huge number of Vaishnavas who followed various practices in various forms. So soon after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left, these Apasampradaya sects started coming, and therefore the books were sent by Jiva Goswami through Narottam Das Thakur, Shyamananda Pandit, right, and Srinivas Acharya from Vrindavan to Bengal and Puri, so that our movement can get the proper Siddhantic foundation, so that these Apasampradaya sects may not come up. The event took place approximately 40 or 50 years after Lord Chaitanya's departure, and by that time those who knew him personally had started to leave this world. Right? As it happens, those who were inspired by his personality had become confused and began to speculate. The movement, as a result, began to disintegrate into small sects because there was no single strict doctrine. So the historical perspective is given here by Maharaj. At that time, this happened just 50 years after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's departure, and that is why the books of the Goswamis were shifted to Bengal and Odisha. He's talking about the Keturi festival. The Goswamis of Vrindavan created this doctrine, but it also had to be established, right? They created it, but who will establish? This establishment took place in Keturi. The exact date of the festival is unknown, but what is known without doubt is that during the festival, Lord Chaitanya personally returned and danced with Lord Nityananda. During the Kirtan, the devotees suddenly saw that Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda were dancing with them. In this way, they sanctified the festival and approved of everything that took place there. So, actually, this establishing our Siddhanta through the Acharya's writings was approved and sanctified by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visiting there. During this celebration, Narottam Das Thakur was the chief Kirtaniya. The wife of Lord Nityananda herself presided over it. Srinivas Acharya, along with his disciples, helped coordinate the event. Narottam Das Thakur's step-brother, who was the king of Keturi, personally built accommodation for all the visiting Vaishnavas who came from all over Bengal, and he also assisted with the organization. Janava Mata was the Acharya and is credited with the fact that she united the movement of Lord Chaitanya, which had started to fall apart, channeling it again into single direction. So Janava Mata's role was to unite the movement, and the means of uniting the movement was the Siddhanta. And it is mentioned that actually Janava Mata herself went to Srila Jiva Goswami to learn the Siddhanta from her, from Jiva Goswami, who taught her the writing of, based on the writings of Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Jiva Goswami taught Janava Mataji also, right? So the basis was Goswami's books. So basis of unification was Goswami's books, right? She had previously gone to Vrindavan, where she studied from Jiva Goswami personally, and the full conclusion of the Gaudiya Vaishnava doctrine. Thanks to Janava Mataji's extraordinary energy and influence, she had thousands and thousands of disciples. She gathered all the Vaishnavas in Keturi. Thousands of people came and danced and sang, officially following in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Goswami. Okay. So, as a result of the Keturi festival, it was recognized that the immediate associates of Lord Chaitanya directly received his mercy, which they then transmitted. In the wake of the festival of Keturi, Narottam Das Thakur wrote a famous song, Gaurangera Sangigane Nitya Siddha Korimane. He says that one must consider all of Lord Chaitanya's associates to be Nitya Siddhas, and through these Nitya Siddhas, actually he says, we were given the opportunity to return to the spiritual worlds, and these Nitya Siddhas are the Goswamis. And through them means through their books, we can return to the spiritual world. That is why Swarupam Shri Rupam Saganamiha Tasyagrajamapi. It was then that the tradition of remembering the names of Vaishnavas originated. In another of his songs, so he says that from Keturi festival, they actually started remembering the names of the Vaishnavas because they were Nitya Siddhas. In another of his songs, Narottam Das Thakur mentioned several times that it is the dust of the Vaishnavas' feet in which he bathes. He writes, chanting the names, what is it? Vaishnavera Padaduli Tahe Mora Snana Keli. Like that, he writes. He writes, chanting the names of Vaishnavas is the source of my happiness. Vaishnavera Namete Ullas. So this comes in the Dhanamora Nityananda Patimora Gaurachandra in that song. He writes that when he hears the names of Vaishnavas, he is overwhelmed with ecstasy, like that. So we will continue this discussion. Tarpan Mora Vaishnavera Naam, like that. So we'll end this discussion here and we'll continue it next Tuesday. So I just wanted to remind again that we have resumed back to Tuesdays. So we will continue with our Tuesdays only. So thank you all very much for your patient listening. And sorry, it's already time. That's why, last minute, we didn't have time for Q&A. So we will end here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami Pad ki jai, Shri Manasiksha ki jai. Hare Krishna.